Westerville, just 40,000 residents, but over 3,000 businesses and 71,000 jobs. And of course, in both 2019 and 2020, the Intelligent Community Forum named Westerville its prestigious international list of top 7 intelligent communities, one of only 2 in the United States. And of course, you're here at Otterbox. Yes, we have a beautiful campus, but we're more than that. For more than 175 years, we have been at the forefront of what's next in innovation and transformation. We're the first college founded co-ed and put women and men in the same classes. Our founders worked actively in support of the Underground Railroad, and we opened our doors to students of color before the Civil War. We're also leaders in the anti-saloon league, which then led to prohibition, and the merits of which I'm about to discuss with the members with your choice anytime. And today, as American higher education faces deserved criticism about affordability and workforce development, Otterbein is trying to be part of that solution. Here at Otterbein, we agree that the cost of college is out of control, and that must change. We know that many deserving students and their families can't afford a college education. To limit the privilege of a college education to only the privileged is un-American and a threat to our democracy. So Otterbein continues to sought to find a better way. We know that certain populations of students are not well deserved by our higher education system. So we're building pathways and programs for urban districts, public schools, and community colleges. And we're closing achievement gaps for students of color, first generation and low-income students. When we started this idea, we were the only college in the state to cover the full cost of tuition for students from families making $60,000 or less. By creating opportunities for students rich in potential, we are transforming lives for our whole society, and we will be better for it. Finally, we know that we must be the workforce engine for our region. Rather than just hoping our programs match for what employers want, we're engaging directly with corporations. We have a dozen companies doing R&D on campus, each directly involving undergraduate students. Most of them in this building are employed. We are not the ivory tower on the hill, nor do we aspire to be. We do aspire to be a shining light, a light in our community that helps people find solutions and find a way forward for all of us. Thank you for being here today, and we're proud to have you and excited to what we're going to hear today as part of this discussion of innovation and transformation. And now I'd like to welcome to the podium Don DePero, President and CEO.
We don't have the largest audience. You can all hear me. I can project. I'm just going to walk around a little bit. I want to first thank Hope Potter and wave. Thank our Vice President of Marketing. She wrote these great introductory remarks for me, and I'm going to save them for our next innovation and transformation. So I recognize you publicly for all the hard work you did because they're wonderful. So about 5 years ago, our incoming board chair, by the name of Keith Stevens, and I got together in preparation for his transition to becoming the chair of our board at the Columbus Chamber of Commerce. And I said, Keith, I really wanted to relaunch a technology council. I think we're primed for it. I think we need it. You know, tech touches everything we do every day of our lives, and it's time for the chamber to be in that universe. And Keith said, no. It's innovation. You have all of these members, they're innovators. They innovate in many different ways. And look at transformation, because innovation leads to transformation. So let's start there and work our way through creating some type of council. And it's not a committee, and we have a number of our transformation and innovation council members with us this morning, namely Shrikant Iyer, who has led this for several years very patiently, and today we put a stake to the ground. But we recognize what our more than 2,300 members do every day. And, we're enjoying Crimson Cup coffee this morning. Greg Ebert, who's standing in the back, one a member of our Innovation and Transformation Council. Greg has a research and development facility on Elm Creek Drive that does research and development on raw roasted coffee. How to elicit the best flavors out of coffee. And it's really extraordinary work. We all love coffee, right? And Greg's leading the way in this research. Our MC and our panel discussion moderator will bring up in just a minute, Tiffany Marr and Wendler. Tiffany had a vision for an app or a game that could be used by middle schoolers and high schoolers to teach them how to budget their money and about finance and personal finance, especially for middle schoolers and high schoolers, maybe from underserved communities who didn't have the awareness or weren't taught that moving forward. And maybe she'll mention a little bit of what she's done with her company, Lumber, and how they're leading the way in this new technology. But we know our 2,300 members of the Congress Chamber are innovating and transforming every day. We learned a lot during the pandemic. A lot of our members pivoted, right? We started making sanitary gel and other products that we needed every single day. So remember where you are today, because in 5 years, hopefully instead of 50, and thank you all for being here at the wonderful point in Otterbein, because this is the first event that we're holding for innovation and transformation. Our first gathering, a workshop, if you will. What we hope to do is create an ecosystem where we can enhance innovative, creative, transformative thought and teach to our members, help one another become more innovative and transformative. So with that, I want to thank you again for being here. Thank our team, and welcome Tiffany Marr from London.
I'll invite our panelists over as well. Before I get started, I would love all of the Innovation and Transformation Council members to stand, because I want you all to know who to attack us. So please stand. Council members ready? So you know who is on this council as of right now. We expect this council and the Innovation and Transformation initiative to grow. But we want you to know who stands in the gap right now. And please grab them afterwards and connect with them on LinkedIn. And schedule conversations, coffee, including with me as well. So thank you, council members. So I want to reiterate that the Innovation and Transformation Council is not all about technology. I'll say it again for repetition. The Innovation and Transformation Council is not all about technology. So with that, hi, my name is Tiffany Marr. I'm the founder and CEO of a financial technology company. But I consider us a financial intelligence solutions company, because we do offer fintech for the workforce and for education, but we also offer curated programming, curated consulting where it makes sense. So an interesting fact about me, the panelists you can come see. An interesting fact about me is that I grew up in choir. So whether it was the chorale ensemble at school or the good old-fashioned hand clapping gospel choir, that is how I grew up. What I learned is those vocal exercises at the beginning help exercise your voices and kind of iron out the kinks. Really, really helps when the singing comes into play. So I'm going to ask our panelists to iron out the kinks, introduce themselves, and tell us an interesting fact about you. Tell us a little bit about your company. Starting with Mark.
I don't really need a microphone at all.
Yes, remember.
Yeah.
So my name is Artie Tove. I'm the phantom part
My partner Matt Holter and I started Freedom Park a little over 2 years ago. The genesis of it came from Pixel Park, an animation and video studio in Columbus around about 10 years. And Matt saw the opportunity in AR, so we started digging in. And it was probably a year and a half or 2 years before we really joined forces and kicked off Freedom Park in a big way. And what we saw was again an opportunity in AR, and we saw the challenges in translating that into something that brands can actually use, something pragmatic. It's exciting, it's big, but there's also lots of misunderstanding about it. So we really positioned ourselves as more of an agency that works with brands to help them understand AR and to start taking steps in that direction to make it themselves. Along with that, there are 2 points that it wasn't really about technology overall. It was about this new opportunity to connect with folks in a new space, in a more immersive way, and to really lean into some of the things that we believe in. The diversity, the equity, the inclusion, the global perspective. And so when you look at Freedom Park, it really was on a global scale. We have partners in Ireland, in the Middle East, in India, and local, all over the U.S. And so our goal is to take all of these very different perspectives, bring them to brands, and help those brands really see the value that's inherent in AR.
Hi, I'm Sarah Hervé. I'm the VP of Operations at Flow. My career has been in the background of supply chain and operations for over 15 years, and I started at the large companies like Unilever and L'Oreal, and then worked my way into the startup world 10 years ago at a company called Edo's. They're the egg-shaped lip balm. Before Flow, I was also at a company that sold houseplants online and in retail locations. And if you've ever had to have an inventory that one has to stay alive and avoid pests, it's a very challenging, and ship it in a box to consumers, it's a very challenging situation. And then I ended up at Flow, and there's 3 main reasons I came here. One was a new challenge. All the companies I've been at, work mostly in personal care and beauty. You use the product, you throw it away, you buy a new one. And now I'm at a company that sells a dispenser, which is something that continues to live on the wall. It has its own challenges of ensuring that it continues to function and serve our customers. I also came here for Claire Kober, who's our CEO, and couldn't be here today because she's at a conference out west. But she started this company when she was only 18 years old. She's a hustler. She lives and breathes this brand. And honestly, when I was deciding to take this, I had a lunch with her, and I tell her she closed the deal because it was hard after meeting her not to say yes to taking this. And I'm 100% happy that I did. But above everything, the mission of this company, the fact that we're providing period products and making them accessible, also that it's a subject that has been taboo in the past, that we talk openly about it, that we're educating people. It's just really, really special to be a part of something like that. And just the background itself, the story is that our CEO was 18 years old and was at an event and started her period, and there was a dispenser in the bathroom, but it took a quarter. And who really carries change anymore or money? And so she had nothing. And the thought came to her, which was very, very simple, is if toilet paper is offered for free, why aren't period products? And that's really what began this idea of having something that's accessible, and changing the market and doing so. So it's been great to continue to further this mission.
Okay, you're talking about money and periods are taboo. That's why we're here.
Howdy. So I'm from Texas, so I'll say howdy, and I speak a little Texas. So if I say y'all, just go with it. So I'm the president and CEO of Revive Environmental. What do we do? How many of you are drinking something today? Football. Okay. bakery or something from the land. In the last year, you've probably done it, right? So my company takes a product that's forever chemicals. It's a contamination that's been around for 90 years. Teflon, quick release foam, all these things that have been great products in America from innovation had an unintended consequence. It's bioaccumulative, meaning if you ingest it, your body can't get rid of it. And it is environmentally not able to be broken down naturally. It takes about 1 million years to break down a chemical. So it accumulates in your body, not great for health, and it's called a forever chemical because it stays around for a while. My company is a product of Patel Innovation, the Nobel Institute down the road, and they came up with a technology that essentially destroys PFAS and breaks the recycling. So today, if you were to have PFAS in your water, the city of Columbus has a tank that's carbon. It captures it, and then that carbon's eventually exhausted, kind of like a gray water filter. What do you do with the carbon? They would dispose it in the landfill, people inject it, or put it back into the environment to recycle. Our company breaks that cycle and actually destroys it on site. So we have a chemistry technology we deploy. And in interviewing customers, we realized that it couldn't be something that water comes to because that's expensive. How do we bring this technology and solution out to sources where they have the problem? Whether it's drinking water sources, sewage, landfills, and other applications. So our company is based in Columbus. And our mission is really simple. It's to rid the world of forever chemicals through innovation and on-site science application. We've got 15 people here in Columbus. I was telling Artie, we're going to be 40 people by the end of the year as we scale, and almost 200 people by the end of next year. Why is the growth so much? It takes people to run the units and to actually do the applied science on site for companies that have issues. We're going to be nationwide. We're already talking about going into Europe, but really what my company is focused on is the mission of getting rid of forever chemicals in an economical and practical way using science. And a little fun fact about me, I'm a product of education. So my mom was in education, my wife's an educator. The reason I got into chemistry in the first place was because I had a teacher in high school that taught chemistry. And she planted the seed in me about really enjoying the science. I didn't realize at the time that she actually worked for the EPA, managing, guess what, contaminants in the soil. I didn't realize that until I did an interview about 2 months ago with the dots. So my life story is about education, innovation, and these little pivot points in your life where just like Sarah's story, a person had an issue, had a thought, how can I solve a challenge? And that's what Revive's doing for a very complex problem. But we're trying to make it practical, economical, and also understandable. And interestingly enough, Artie's parent company, Pixel, they actually did our branding. They did some of the work on the video. So when we talk about innovation for a minute, it's not a single event, and it's certainly not a single person. It's a team of person. And I would love to explore that. So thank you for having us.
They're sitting on the wheel. Amazing. So one of the things that I think leads to innovation and transformation is truly being observant, being honest, and being transparent about what's going on inside your company and about what's going on around you. So I'm going to ask the panelists to give us a SWOT analysis. Their strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats about their company. And I'll start. So I would say one of our strengths is that we are where's the flag? Woo! No, I really believe that is a strength. I think one of our weaknesses is that we need more internal staff for our growth trajectory. I think that is a weakness for us right now. I think there's opportunity for us in government contracting. We have a lot of contacts at the federal level, which have been amazing. But I think a threat could possibly be the regulatory environment. Some of the things that are coming into play regarding AI, etc. So take it up and then start with David this time.
Okay, so a strength for us is our technology works. I know that sounds trite, but the fact is, many times in our line of work, there's a lot of startups. It's almost a race to figure out who's where PFAS. So our technology works. It's also been adopted. We're the first permanent operation site in North America. And so there was a lot of lessons learned actually. I think it's great experience and application. The weakness for us is that we designed the best system we were expensive. So really understanding the applications, the value proposition, and who we're willing to pay is something that we're working through right now. Opportunities, how do we scale quickly, but still make sure that we really dial in the customer experience? Because this is something that will take years to do on site. This is not a once a month and that's it. We get on site and we figure out how to do the actual material work. The threats for us, I would say with Tiffany, I think it's regulation. Because today in Ohio, there's not a regulation for PFAS. Michigan, New Jersey, there is. There's about to be a national standard. So for us, it's been fighting that line of, is our business model, is it successful without regulation? And then what happens if there's regulation? Being able to scenario plan to manage a threat that's not fully under control.
I think our core strength would be we are the leading free vending menstruating company with a focus on social impact. We have a lot of established partnerships with schools, distributors, and many other organizations. Our weakness is that there's a lot of intense competition with established period brands. An opportunity is there is a big trend and the focus of organic and sustainable products, so it's something we're already offering. And I think we have an opportunity to also either expand our product line or expand into other markets internationally. And then as a threat, I would say is the supply chain and rising material costs and just availability in general. So staying ahead of that and coming up with solutions to help mitigate that risk.
So in terms of strengths, I go back again to our talent network. It took more than a year to find the right partners. Not only folks who are experts in their own area of discipline, their own experience and expertise, but able to work across the table with different disciplines. We built it, and we're really excited to see the team come together again from all around the world, including locally, and have these conversations that are challenging to have. You have a certain expectation for design, and then you start to talk to development, and there are different expectations. So all having the same mission in terms of bringing this sense of magic to brands and their audiences in a practical way, and the ability to do it at a really high level of quality and efficiency. That's probably our big strength today. That and the ability to be human. We're a leadership team of 3. We have a low overhead, so we're able to kind of place bets and do some things with brands early on that a lot of larger agencies might not be able to do, at least without significant cost. In terms of weaknesses, I'd say it's reach. Again, we're a leadership team of 3. Our talent network is really focused on helping us to grow the mission, the business, and so we have this challenge of translating augmented reality to folks who may have some experience with it, may have not heard it at all, and so there's this noise that's happening. LinkedIn is a great example where you see AI, ML, AR, VR, XR, and it's like, oh, I listen to. And so that reach is really something that we're addressing currently. Just getting out there, getting the understanding for folks to see the opportunity. And then in terms of opportunity, it really is massive. We watched Facebook for a while talk about the metaverse is going to be in your face, you're going to be in a seat, experiencing it. And with our research in AR, it didn't feel it. And Apple has since addressed that with, well, maybe it won't all be within the screen, it's going to be a mixed experience. You're going to see overlays in the real world soon. aspire to that, and we see some of our clients in competition starting to step on board with AR, do some testing, and see some really positive results. So I'd say that's our opportunity. And similarly, the threat is the new technologies that are out there that create limits. There's skepticism. You start to hear all of these grand gestures, and it was the same in augmented reality. There was a video that came out about a year ago of a gymnasium in an elementary school, and a whale came out of the gymnasium, landed, and the whole crowd watched. And I saw that, and I was like, wait, I can do that anymore. And we came to find out it was staged. And so that kind of thing really hurts the credibility of not only technology, but those of us who are trying to show the true value of practice.
Morning. So I first met with the entire panel today. When we met, you mentioned technology that's coming from a heart and a mindset. So I really appreciate that. You also touched on what leads us into the next question. Sarah, I'll go first. About your team. And innovation and transformation requires buy-in. I mean, you have to get people that say, oh, I like that. I think we should go after that. How do you motivate your team and your employees to get on board? That's the first question. And then, how do you get them to innovate on behalf of the company and within the company?
I think this is actually an easier company that I've been part of, and I'm getting people on board because truly everyone is extremely passionate about this mission, and that is what drives each of us every single day. So I would say right now that's an easier piece. But I think being especially at a small company or a startup, it lends itself in creating an entrepreneurial spirit and innovative thinking. And so we're a small company, we don't have a lot of resources. We have to do a lot with a little, and so we consistently have to innovate internally every single day. And so some of the questions that I like to ask my team and other departments when we're in meetings is, what is a pain point you've experienced in the last week or the last month? What's one thing that could make your life easier or our customers' life easier? What is a better way that we could provide better service to our internal customers or our external customers? So it's constantly asking questions and challenging to keep that thought process going, and trying to figure out better ways to do actually everything. We need to learn. We don't have a lot of resources, we need more people as well. We'd love to be able to hire more, but right now we're, being conservative in that space. So we need to keep coming up with ideas to do it more efficiently, take out manual processes. And so we're constantly thinking and brainstorming around those. But a lot of times people are bringing their own ideas forward, and and we discuss. And if we're all in agreement, we move on from there. So I think just living in that spirit every day is really wonderful.
I think mission matters. So the first question was, how do we get people interested and excited about the company and the mission and how we do innovation? When I started Revive in January, I was the first employee, and my mission was very simple. I had a product. I knew what the strategy was going to be for years. I had to figure out how to get people. I've got 2 people over here that are on my staff, but I had to figure out how to attract them to people. And I really focused a lot of journaling time on what the mission is, what's our purpose, and how do we actually make an impact. And then I intentionally tried to find people that fit the culture I wanted to build. Mission is a good part of it, but culture is also a very significant part of how I think we grow. And what Sarah just said is, both at Flow and Revive, I think, are using intentional scarcity as a way to drive innovation. It's funny, when you have a constraint, when you tell somebody go figure it out, it's really fun to see what happens when that is. And one of the things my leadership team and I talk about a lot is, if we had limited resources, how would we solve it? And because we don't, what's the best way to do it now with what we have? And being very clear on the problem to solve I think is also very empowering for employees. High performers crave clarity. And when you're in a startup or even a big company with innovation, clarity of what the problem is, as well as the freedom to give the how to the employees, that's where the innovation happens. Because the how is where innovation works. But the what, the who, by, when, is something as leaders we can start to influence and be very clear on.
I'm just going to steal that. This was really good. Sarah, I love that you said, what give me a pain point. What in my past lives, what I found is it's so much more common to say, is everything okay? And people don't want to answer that, but you know I've got a problem. Give me a pain point is a threat. Love that. And David, the idea of what would have to be true for this to be successful, similar. We put those kinds of questions out there to keep the team as honest as possible, keep ourselves honest. And the other thing is curiosity. We really celebrate it. The team finds new things to test, whether it's technical technique, and we encourage them to bring those ideas to the table, share them around the table, and all celebrate them. And those connections of disparate dots, we found that folks get excited about. It's something they've never done. Whether or not it turns into a valuable piece of our business offering, we've at least vetted that. And we find that curiosity and excitement goes along.
So good, guys. So speaking of pain points, I think a lot of times pain points make you pivot, make you shift. So what does pivoting or shifting mean to you? Where else?
It's an everyday, really. We are, one of the things that we love about being a startup, about being nimble, is we don't have to pass things up to command. We don't have a large scale base of associates that have to slowly consider how is this going to impact everyone, how are we going to pivot. It's really fast and it's constant. And that's because our industry is constantly pivoting. There are new technologies launching in augmented reality almost on a monthly basis. And so it's up to us to harness the value there and to integrate that into our offerings and use it. So the pivots are constant, and it's what keeps us excited and active in these days.
Yeah, actually, jumping on what Artie said, it's every day, and sometimes I joke it's by the hour, it feels like. So pivoting is a big part of it. We are also a small and nimble business, and a lot of things change. Like, we're learning every single day on how to do things and how to do it better. And sometimes that means refocusing, reshifting our priorities. We are a venture capitalist-backed company, and the market has changed a lot in the last year. And so a lot of startups at our size and in our stage, the focus is growth, just grow, grow, grow. But the market significantly changed in the last year, and that change became, instead of growing at all costs, became when are you going to be profitable? And so that is a big shift in your business and what you're focused on. That was not in our focus for last year, but quickly had to become our focus. And so stopping, reshifting priorities and making sure that we're all aligned and working towards the same thing is really important. But it does require being flexible and moving with it. Because oftentimes I've seen that before. It's like you have a priority, you keep focusing on it, and you miss something, or sometimes just striving towards that isn't the right answer. Like, sometimes pausing and figuring out what do we do next, what's the best next course, what should we prioritize is really a good checkpoint to have.
Pivoting to the we're going to find both of these comments. By the way, the panelists are fantastic, aren't they? So for us, pivoting is twofold. One is it a strategic, impactful pivot that will change the trajectory of our company, existential threat kind of stuff? Or is it a local challenge that can be managed, but you might have to change your thinking to get it accomplished? So we talk a lot about on the leadership team, making sure that we have at least 50% of our mind share time on the company, not in the company. Meaning making sure that we have enough visibility to understand what that existential strategic connection is, while making sure that we have enough feet on the ground in the leadership team to understand the challenges of our employees, and making sure that we have that connection. So when I think about pivot, Tiffany, it's not just, boy, I have a problem, should I do it differently? It's making sure that there is a connection system on the customer, on the investment, on profitability, and a holistic viewpoint of what matters for the company. And then having the question, is this something we have to accelerate now because it's an existential threat to us? Or is this something that we can take a little bit of time to solve, do it good enough, and then get better later? And that framework of continuous improvement, I think is something that really helps revive out. My former life, I was a Six Sigma black belt kind of a lean leader, so I was trained to be a sensei. But I was trained to be a sensei in how to help people think differently. And I'm trying to bring that part into a thought. And that's an industrial application of a mindset of continuous improvement. But I think it has real utility when it comes to challenges in business. How do we really make sure that there's clarity on what to pivot, what's the right solution? And many times, my employees come to me and say, is this right? And I'm asking them, is it good enough? And does it get the job done now? Can we learn and grow? And so that gives them a little clarity on, does it have to be something solved now a certain way, or can I learn and grow because there's another bite of the apple?
I was on a call last night about impact reporting, how to actually do it right. How do you measure the impact of a pivot or of a shift within your business? I gotta tell you where to start. Let's do Dave.
All right. I think it's very important in any business, family, organization to have metrics that matter. So again, thinking about strategic pivots or kind of daily pivots, you got to be able to measure what you did the same, what you did different, and have a true measure of outcome. So for us at Revive, I'll give you a very clear example. As we started up our company in Grand Rapids on our first deployment, we had a number of different, holy cow, that happened moments. And we had to determine how to treat a product that was different than what we tested. So the measure that mattered, we had to pivot on how we did our product. And we had clear line of sight and operational metrics of how much we produced a day. But how we did the work had to change. So we had to come up with some new metrics and give the team some flexibility to do it all while we learn. But I think measurement system is really critical. It doesn't have to be draconian, but I think we do need to understand what changes are happening. And I think of it a little bit as scientific method. If you change one thing, but you change everything at the same time, I'm really not sure what the benefits are. So being able to have somewhat of a controlled experiment, if you will, measures matter, and what you change will be intentional. I think really is important.
Love the scientific method. I'm more of a grasshopper to the sensei, but we subscribe to DevOps. That's a social philosophy. Continuous improvement, continuous deployment, and so our innovation, I would say on the client side, we measure it from a relationship standpoint. And so what I mean by that is our feedback loop is continuous with clients. We prompt with questions like, give us your pain points, whether it's us or augmented reality or your stakeholders within the business want to see the vision. We address that, I would say, first. And then the other piece of it is on the audience side. There are more quantitative metrics. So we look at scans, click-throughs, dwell time, repeat visits, shares, form fills, and the like. So those tell us what we're putting out there, resonating with the audience that are participating. But really first it's on the client side. It's making sure that our mission to make AR easy is really coming to life. I think as we grow, we'll have more quantitative metrics on the client side, but right now our success is do we have happy clients, are they sharing this with other brands, recommending it on board, and are our projects successful on the quantitative side.
Yeah, I think building on a little bit what Arnie said, a lot of ours is, we're still in the business, so customer happiness is a big piece of it. Of course, we're tracking things of like how a marketing qualified lead becomes a sales qualified lead and going through those. And so we have a number of metrics like that. But I think there's 4 key areas that we continue to focus on in anything that we're doing. Is it driving revenue? Is it positively impacting our brand equity? Is it improving customer loyalty? And is it improving our unit economics? And keeping those 4 things in everything that we're doing really make sure that we continue to drive and grow our business in a successful way.
That's great. Before I go to the next question, I'm just going to check time. Okay. We're good? So let me ask you this question regarding things that are trending in your marketplaces. How do you stay ahead of that? It's here, this will go to you first. How do you stay ahead of those trends, or how do you adapt?
So I would say we are the trend right now. So we created that trend for ourselves. 7 years ago, there was no really need period care. And so we created that. And we're riding the smack in the middle of that trend right now. So a lot of that is, again, educating, talking to our customers and continuing to move through that. We are continually carving spaces. We're building relationships. Like I said earlier, we have a number of distributor relationships with schools and organizations. We help advocate. Our CEO was just in Washington, D.C. recently advocating. We're constantly watching also and working with different states to pass laws. Like every single day, different states or different municipalities are passing legislation. And so we're constantly helping communicate those things, share those things with our partners, and that's really how basically we're creating the trend right now and doing this.
Trends for me is something we have to watch daily, but we also are very careful not to make trends equal. So when we talk about disruptive technology like Revive has, we're, like Sarah, creating the trend because we're doing something a little bit different than pioneering. So we watch impact in terms of our effectiveness and influencing. So we want to be a technology leader, but also a thought leader in the space. That's something that we've chosen to do. So the way that we look at trends is through that lens or paradigm, as Steve Covey says, to make sure we understand impact. And as a leadership team, we talk a lot about what's the ecoverse for Revive: suppliers, customers, investors, and regulators. Those are all very important stakeholders and employees. And so we try to have lines of understanding and communication in the business to truly get those sense of stakeholder groups. Social media is actually very positive for us. Not in the sense that we're using it as an advertising vehicle, but it actually is a pretty easy way to understand who's talking about what and what really matters. Because you can see things like click-throughs and what the audience is going to be. So we're trying to engineer with our public relations group some level of sensing around what matters, and we're doing some experimentation on that. But I think ultimately our goal is to satisfy customers. And so if I were to prioritize, place my bets on where I really love the most, it's being in front of customers. And I read a book recently that talked about, as a CEO or as a leader of a company, there's nothing that can take you further from success than being able to be in front of customers. Said differently, as a CEO, you have to be in front of customers. It's going to be very tempting for us as leaders to outsource the sales process, our customer facing to somebody else, like the head of sales or whatever. And my leadership team right now is complaining about the office very much because I'm with customers right now. And that's an important phase of a company. That will change. But I've got to tentatively, the level of trend monitoring has to be at a customer base if we're truly going to be successful long term.
Great perspective, and Sarah. Social media, absolutely. LinkedIn is a free way to see what everybody's excited about, what everybody's promoting. There's a lot of hype too, so we have to wade through that and to test, is this something that's actually going to happen today? Or are these, Apple Vision Pro going to be virtual reality in 5 years? So LinkedIn is a great thumb on the pulse. But we also, big picture, we lean into Gartner, McKinsey, Forrester to tell us outside augmented reality, where those big picture trends and where we see opportunities to either tap into that or circumvent those trends with our own offerings. And otherwise, it is, when we look at our customer base as you folks. So these events, conferences, webinars, innovation events, hackathons, that kind of stuff really helps us get into the minds of folks who really are ambassadors in an organization that itself may not be ready to make themselves. So it is really on the customer basis, and the customers that we look for are those who are enthusiastic about things, who see the opportunity to make a change for the better. We do some research within augmented reality, and a big part of that goes back to our network. All the folks in our talent network are very dialed into augmented reality. I myself don't research as much on the technology side as strategy or integration side, but it really does come down to what's that big picture, how long is it going to take, and then what do you folks look for in your own organizations, and being able to address that with our offerings.
David, I'm going to give this next question to you, staying on that customer focus that you started. The question is, how do you maintain a customer-centric focus? And I'll kind of tap into when we're in a little bit, as Don mentioned. One of the ways that we did that, pretty much subconsciously, is working with a school district. We began to build out the prototype for Windward X, gaming technology that teaches financial literacy to students. And so not only do they help us with some of the background text, some of the front-end stuff, but we surveyed them at the end. We had them, walk through that initial prototype. We got to understand, wow, these kids really do want financial literacy in high school. And they want a fun way to learn it because they're not getting those lessons at home. Some of them don't even know how much their parents make in a year. So it was interesting to be not only submersed within emerging talent, but also submersed within our end users. So I'd love to hear from you guys. Okay?
Well, the question is maintaining a customer-centric focus for the organization. It sounds right, but let's start with the customer. Let's identify in the job and the function of the company who is the customers, internal and external. Ask them what is important to you. Help understand from their view what matters and the how that they would appreciate the work being done. When we onboard employees, one of the first things that I do as a CEO is I try to interview them and understand why they're coming. Because my first job as CEO is to keep them safe, but also keep people engaged as an employee base. Because if I take care of them, they take care of the customers. So really understanding why they came to Revive, what the mission is, and then giving them opportunities to grow as employees, I think is really important. And that seems obtuse to take care of customers, but I'm a big believer that if we take care of our employee base and have that direction to take care of the customers can take care of. The other side of it is, as a leader, I think it's really important to be in front of customers directly. You have to scale, and that's one of the challenges that I think companies have is as you're in the growth phase. How much does a leader do themselves versus also scale through others? And it's going to be a very intentional tightrope. You have to do both. But I think if you flex 1 degree where it's all you, or 1 degree where it's all somebody else, you're going to lose that connectivity of really driving customer value because then you have a risk of being disconnected. So I think being connected to customers as you scale, I think is a really important factor to drive, regardless of the size of things.
Yeah, I don't think there's any other way to really stay customer-centric without being in front of the customer. You know, we are a Columbus-based company, and so we have a lot of customers in this area, which allows us to go and visit with them directly. In the last 6 months, the CEO and I actually spent over an hour at the Columbus Crew Stadium, who was a customer of ours, because they were having some issues with their dispenser. And it allowed us to see what the issue was. We actually were able to fix it on site for them. But it also gave us that information to see firsthand the issues or challenges they were experiencing with our product. And then we took that back internally to work with our engineer team and our supplier so that we could make, it was actually very simple changes to our production that allowed that not to happen again and continue to have a positive customer experience. We do also a lot of surveys with our customers as well, and so that information is very valuable to understand what it is that's important to them, because I'll be honest, sometimes what we think is important internally isn't necessarily the things that are important to our customers, and so making sure that there's not a disconnect there is really, really important as well. And we continue as we launch, especially larger programs. Jenny is someone on my team here, and we want the state of Utah, and our team has spent a lot of time in Utah specifically with them because that was deployed across the schools in Utah. And so understanding how they did it, being able to replicate that or help other customers roll that out like they did, and just understanding their overall needs allows us to continue to improve what we're doing internally to serve our customers as well.
Very cool. Same page. You know, it's getting in front of the customers, and for us, we speak with our clients first. Again, continuous feedback loop, but we also have ideation workshops, and this is an opportunity for us to really ingrain ourselves in what are your problems, what are you trying to do, what are your audiences looking for from you? Is there something more that they need to really understand your mission, your vision, your values, and your products and services? So the client side is part of it, and then on for us, the customer side or the audience side, it's really about understanding that time and experience the augmented reality. And so if it's retail, you're in that store before we ever touch a store. If it's an event, we start looking at past events to figure out where are the successes and failures, how can we really bring to life what the client is looking for in the biggest and most practical ways possible. And then, really the framework of our process for our clients is quick wins, big ideas, and scale. And so the purpose there is what we found going in was we've got this blue sky opportunity with augmented reality, what we want to do. And it was like, I don't know. And so we started pivoting to it. We've got this blue sky. Let's get some quick wins first. Let's help the clients and their audiences dip a toe in the water, start to understand the technology, how different and immersive it is, and then let's address some big ideas. We're going to start to bring some stakeholders from the organization on board and start to see a bigger picture of how we might operationalize something. So we're not only working through marketing, now we're working with other departments to bring clarity to the value, to bring perspective, interested stakeholders on board to support, and then we move into scale. And really, that is that DevOps process of continuous improvement of what we've already built, as well as more of, for example, with our client nationwide. We built an internal AR stakeholder team, comprised of 6 individuals from around the organization who are all passionate about bringing AR to life for their customers. And so having that stakeholder team that meets monthly is just, for us, has been the best opportunity to align, finding priorities, and all be on the same page in terms of
All of the ideation workshops and a stakeholder team and having them in mind. And it gave me the idea of a question, or for a question that I wasn't planning. But how do you know when to collaborate outside of the organization? And I'll start with David.
Collaborate outside the organization. Off the top of my head, I think there's 2 opportunities. I think the real world examples. We outsource the fabrication of a lot of our equipment. We make chemical reactor products. So to do that, you have to heat, temperature, and it can be in space. So we had to help design our unit from the outside. So we had ideas of what the designs were, but then how to actually build and assemble. We had to collaborate with the outside because I didn't want to invest a lot of internal resources yet in building that capability. So my parent company, the Tell More Institute, they volunteered to be our manufacturing partner for the first 2 years. It's fantastic. So did I outsource? No. But did I look outside for the help that I needed? That I was better served doing outside than myself? Absolutely. And being really clear on what the team's going to be good at. And then as part of the scaling factor, making sure that you have partners that you can develop. Is really clear for Revive, because we were a technology spin-off, Mattel already knew the business plan. So I kind of had a little bit of a cheat code because they knew what our plan was and they had a vision for how to implement it. I still have to engage them. So maybe and maybe this is the negative wisdom if there is a different need. We need to look outside for innovation and help for your business. It cannot be a one-time only transaction. The feedback that we talk about customer-wise, we've got to embrace the fact that we're the customer, we also know what they need. And you can't just let that be outsourced alone. You've got to stay engaged. Because if it's that critical to outsource your scale, and you don't have direct control of it, there's a risk that you don't have control of it. And then the outcome's going to be wildly different than what you envisioned. And then there's a risk of resource loss. So I think being intentional about what you want to outsource with outside collaboration and then stay engaged as appropriate really matters.
I love engagement. I mean, sometimes you have to engage for months or even years with a collaborator before something actually comes to fruition, particularly the big ones. Let's see.
Yes, I'm going to actually go a little bit about what David said. This isn't just something at Airflow, but just something I've used across my career is that a number of companies I've worked for manufacture goods outside our company. And so these aren't just suppliers that supply materials or goods to us, they are a partner. And I think continuing to collaborate with them is really key and staying ahead of technologies or innovation, because oftentimes they know their product more than anything, and actually have the answer a lot of times more than we do internally. And so building that relationship and continuing to collaborate with them and take information to them so that they also bring information back to you or have ideas is, I think, really key in staying ahead of different issues or problems. Right now, one example is that we've had our pad specifically required a specific way to load them, and I was like, this isn't exactly customer friendly. Making sure that you have a range of people who might be filling your dispenser at any given company, and so coming up with something that worked, that was easier and didn't require it to be loaded a specific way has been a key, and have involved not only our dispenser partner, but also our partner that makes our pads. And so they both had interesting experiences in how those things come together, or ideas. And so both are helping us come to a solution on that currently.
Similarly, Sarah, the idea of this doesn't seem customer friendly, we find ourselves asking, is there a better way? You have this gut feeling that some part of the process, the technology or otherwise, just doesn't make sense. It's not intuitive to what you're trying to build, to your clients, or to the audience. And so we look for those. Where does it feel like there's got to be a better way? And that's when we collaborate. We look outside of our own experience and expertise to seek out options. Recently, we had a challenge with licensing, where it felt like we were being charged too much for a certain offering. And so we sought out an engineer. And we said, look, we really feel like if we dig into AWS and some web services, there are options in there that can help us solve this. I'm not going to learn AWS because it's going to take me months or years. So we found an expert who's out of California, used to work for YouTube, that knew the space. And from there, it was really a matter of not only like one-time fix this for us, but train us up to the point where now we can either own this or have an awareness of what we're doing to help collaborate on a more transparent level.
So I would flip that a little bit, and instead of talking about collaborators, let's talk about competition. So how do you stay ahead of your competition? And this probably relates to some of the things you are talking about.
We snoop online, LinkedIn, websites, really awards competition. What's the best of the best out there? And then we latch onto that and learn about it. Glean what we know we can use in order to do better. But we found in augmented reality was a lot of that was happening overseas. Europe, Asia is where augmented reality is a technology, specifically web-based VR, where you don't have to download an app. You need a phone, and Wi-Fi, and scan. We saw that blow up over there. And we said, well, we can do this, and this doesn't exist in the Midwest right now. And so we're probably one of the only agencies in the Midwest focusing on AR. But really, it came from that competitive intelligence. What are some of the biggest players doing well? What are their clients and audiences excited about? I'd say that's the biggest one. It's really just having a thumb on the pulse of what's happening in the industry, what are brands looking for, what are audiences excited about.
Yeah, I would say we all snoop a little, right? So we're looking at what others are doing as well. But I think it kind of goes back to what we talked about, the customer-centric piece. At least in our industry, a lot of our competitors are sold through distributors only. It doesn't allow them to be directly in front of the customer necessarily. So again, the fact that we do use distributors as well, but we also sell directly to our customers and build those relationships. And so it allows us the opportunity to be in front of our customer, to understand what the needs are, what the challenges are, and what they continue to need. It's also how we talked about listening to customers as well. They're helping us develop ideas. So a lot of the things that we're currently exploring, like what's next for us, came from ideas or questions from our customers. And so our team is taking that back internally and we're evaluating those. So that allows us to have that direct line, that direct relationship with our customers and continue to building the things that they need and want.
3 words: define, benchmark, and focus. When you think about competitors, is it a direct competitor or is it an alternative that maybe you're not offering today? And being very broad in what that competitive set is. So in strategic marketing, one of the things that's kind of interesting about me is I used to teach business to high schoolers on entrepreneurship. So I ran a nonprofit that did this. And when you teach a high schooler who's fairly novice about business, you really have to focus them on what's the next best alternative. And get really clear on that. And it may not be a direct competitor, so defining the competitors is really important. The second one is benchmarking. So, Arden, right? The big tag. What Arden was saying about benchmarking and really understanding what that is, it's really important. Looking at a competitor and looking at them is different than saying, what unique do they bring to the market? And do I either care about that and want to do better? Or do I want to use that as a bellwether to be good at? And so defining that benchmark is important. Then I think third, where's your focus? Is your focus so much about the competitors that you lose the connection to customers? So when Jeff Bezos was doing his work and growing Amazon, a lot of the threats and doubts came into his mind about, am I going to fail? And there's competitors out there that compete against Amazon. His mantra was, don't worry about competitors as much as focus on customers. And so I think there's a really important distinction around the focus of a company on, are we beating customers? Are we beating competitors, or are we focusing on the customer? And making that an organizational design and focus issue is really important.
So I think we have 5 minutes, and I'm going to get 2 more questions if I can. Share tips and best practices for successful innovation and transformation. Sarah, let's start.
I think the biggest thing is ensuring you have buy-in for your key stakeholders, first and foremost. I have seen it where it's just a head nod and it's a yes, but you need to really make sure that everybody understands what the scope is and what determines success in it. And so that way you have full alignment, and because you're going to hit bumps along the road in any innovation or any change. But as long as you're on the same page about those things, it allows you to keep moving forward. I think the other piece is if you wait for it to be perfect, you miss the opportunity. A lot of times 80% or around that is enough to make sure that you have an idea and you get to market soon enough, or to make a change. And I think take risks. You know, no one ever got ahead by not taking a risk. Of course, you need to mitigate it and make sure you're taking the right risks. But risk is important to get also stay ahead. And sometimes it is a gut feeling for that as well. And I think the other piece is don't boil, I heard this say, we used it in our last company, but don't boil the ocean. So we have a tendency to overcomplicate it or try to solve a really, really big problem. And what might be easier is taking a small chunk of that and solving it a piece at a time versus just jumping full in and taking the whole thing, because you may not get where you need to be if you take on too much. So those are, I think, the key 4 areas of delivering.
I'm chuckling at some of the things you guys say, because I know
Tips and best practices. For me, it starts with curiosity. Again, stay curious, but importantly, have vigilant empathy for your audiences, for your stakeholders, and then connect random dots as possible. Inspiration's guaranteed. If you don't find yourself inspired, start looking around the organization for other folks who are excited about the same things. And when you get excited about something with somebody else, you can start to look around the company for other folks. You can start to look outside of the organization for best in class. There's low-hanging fruit out there. And so just that curiosity, that vigilant empathy, that connection of random dots and collaboration, I think those are long.
Great tips and advice. Here's what I'll add. If you boil down change management, it's where you're starting from and being clear on your destination. Many times in transformation or innovation, as we call it, we stop to realize that we've arrived at our original endpoint because we're already thinking 3 or 4 stops down the bus train. And making sure that we're clear on the what and the when. And then enabling the who and the how to be done intentionally, but don't put your hand on the how so much. I think it's really critical. To say differently, at Revive, we're doing a lot of change all at once. We have to. because we're a disruptive startup technology. Being clear from an operations viewpoint what the milestone is going to be, and then letting the team drive it and do the innovation, that's the goal. For sales, it's the same thing. Technology, the same thing. Each are aligned differently in terms of the how, but they're collectively engaged in the overall mission. And so I think for me, it's making sure I'm clear as a leader how I am being intentional on what they're trying to accomplish and when. I have to drive that pace, but I also have to drive it. And then when they do achieve it, you celebrate right in that, because it really is something cool. And I've seen days in operations where our unit shut down and everybody was miserable. I think somebody cried. And then 3 hours later, they're like, I got the unit back up, we solved the problem, and I'm not kidding, they were popping popcorn in the microwave. I had a break because they were so excited. So there's going to be a lot of emotional ups and downs, and being okay with that, and encouraging the emotion, but like also keeping it grounded, as I think important.
I want to ask this last question. Just put it quickly, maybe in a few seconds. I think sometimes when people see you guys, see me, and see you guys in the audience, and see your companies online, they think the journey has just been perfect. They think the journey has been smooth. They think there have been absolutely no hiccups. That is absolutely false. So just talk about, maybe one lesson you learned from a mistake or failure.
Sure, I'll go first. So when I got to Amp Flow a couple years ago, there was really no infrastructure internally, and so my first thing was to build those out. So we had a number of systems that didn't do everything we needed them to do. They didn't talk. We had a 3PL partner that we had outgrown their capabilities, and it just felt like everything was on fire. And so the two big projects last year was to implement an ERP system and to find a new 3PL to support our growing business. They were supposed to be a little more spread out, but ended up launching about a month with a month from each other. And if anybody has gone through an ERP implementation, I don't think anyone has said that's a good time. And after you launch it, it's continuing to improve and build on that. And then changing 3PL partners is also a really big change. A lot of new processes and all new systems. And unfortunately, our partner wasn't quite as ready as we thought for us. And so both of those things had gone well, maybe we would have, but the second one definitely didn't. And it was a very hard few months. And so I wish that I had taken a pause and said, does this still make sense? What's our priority, and make sure that we were aligned internally, and that everyone really knew the trade-offs in those things. And then it just required buckling down and rolling up my sleeves to figure it out and to fix it. But I wish I became so focused on we needed this and driving forward that I didn't allow myself a chance to take a pause and say, does this still make sense? Is this crazy? What is this going to do? So I think it would have been a bit better. And of course, it would have been painful to continue to live without a better 3PL or a system. But it might have made those transitions a little bit easier. So definitely a learning there.
All right, so I'll be brief if I can. Let's talk talent management. Do you want perfection, or do you want good enough that's aligned to culture and can get the job done and grow into it? And early on in my career, I did a lot of work to try and get the perfect people. How many people in our companies are perfect? I'm certain. And I don't think that really exists. So being clear on what's really critical: culture, capability, and network. And are they humble enough to be teachable? Those are the things now over time, many mistakes in my career, of maybe hiring the wrong person or taking too long to hire somebody. That's what I've come to really value. And what's cool is instead of dwelling on mistakes as problems, I view them now as stepping stones for future success. So at Revive, I've been less than fortunate to have 20 years of mistakes that can now inform what I do and how I really want to drive talent in the organization. Because honestly, of all the things we've talked about today, I'm a big fan that talent and people are everything about innovation and transformation. If you don't have the right people, I promise you it doesn't matter what your value proposition is, it will scale, it will connect, and it will be successful long term.
I love the insight. I wish I could take notes. For us, it was the learning curve. Augmented reality has a necessary translation. We're often met with letdown, is that like avocados? And so there's this learning curve that as we learned through the early days of our process, it wasn't about taking the client up this learning. It was about lowering the learning curve, flattening. And so the earliest pitches, we found ourselves sharing this blue sky perspective. There's so much excitement in the room, and to actually operationalize that excitement through strategy was a heavy lift for our clients because they hadn't gone up the learning curve. And so the result of that, we have recently built and soft launched a suite of products called Alive. And it really takes that learning curve almost to a flat level for our clients. We've kind of taken a modular approach to the products and drastically reduced the cost for those initial projects. Again, to start indoctrinating this immersive perspective that's so new, and along with our workflows, quick wins, big ideas at scale. And so that learning, while painful at the time, moving forward, what do you do next? Has really turned into a suite of products that in our first round of peer and client feedback, we were hoping to get some bad news. We were hoping to find places to pivot, to rewrite, and it actually resulted in too much new business. So we delayed our launch, and we're hiring for a couple new roles to prepare for what's ahead.
You guys are awesome. That was a deep breath. The air is awesome. You guys are wonderful. And I think we have 9 minutes or 10 minutes for questions, I think, or Q&A. We want to engage.
I'm sorry.
Do you stand up?
Yes, cool. Hi, Judy from Girls Games. My question is for Artie. You said.
Hello. Hold on, I took a lot of notes, I'm trying to find. You said basically you get people together for ideation workshops, and I want to know what that looks like. Is that internal? Is that external? Do you involve clients? How do you do that?
Great question. So the question was, when we do ideation workshops, is that internal, external, are clients involved? It's especially when we involve clients, we're getting closer to brand, closer to the strategy, and closer to our audiences. So what we love to do is have brand workshops, and we typically meet with our client and find those stakeholders who may be interested in space or who are looking to solve problems. We all get in the same room and just get really honest about what are the challenges and opportunities that they're facing today. And then we share kind of a quick perspective on what is augmented reality, what can we do with it, and how do we practically and in an exciting way bring the brand to life.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
We'll track growth through all of it. That's what you're going to do SWOT analysis, but what's preventing you from getting huge?
I'll take a stab at it. So, Brad, first, I think it's knowing what we're good at, and then doubling and tripling down on it. So getting the first base of customers, and then allowing ourselves time and experience to get really good and drive that margin down. I got my financial guy saying about money. So you got to drive the profitability up before you scale. I think it's really important. And you can't cheat that. Meaning to quest to grow fast. I've seen companies be very good at that and then not be viable long term. So what gets in the way of our growth, I think in some ways is experience, time, and capital. And so for us, we've solved the capital problem of the structure, but the experience, time, and the product, that's what we're working on today. But in the future, one of the things that I'm talking with the leadership team about in offsite next month is in any stage of a business, especially from brand new to scale, the gears you're going to have to shift are going to be different. Right now, it's setting up systems. Sarah, a great example of you started with nothing in terms of structure, and now you have it. So now you have different problems. You still have to work on them. But I think as you go through successes, making sure that the leadership team and the employees working with them understand the gears they have to shift to be successful for that growth. Growth in year 1 is different than year 3 is different than a global business in year 7.
I think right now, it's what something I mentioned earlier is the focus on what changed in the market, and instead of, it's not that we're not growing, but this focus on profitability and making sure we're getting there. So if it was any other year, we would be growing and the size that we're growing would be much faster. But in some ways I see this as like a positive because it's allowing us to make sure that we have the right infrastructures in place to scale, that we are building a solid company, that our economics make sense, that we're working with our partners to help bring down those costs. And so it is really, it changed what we were projecting for this year and next year, but I think it's actually setting us up to grow stronger when we get those things in place.
Same thing. It's really time, experience, and capital. We have a deep well of experience within our talent network. The last 2+ years have been building our strategy, processes, client network, but most of it town. And so we really feel like the car's finished. That's what we're driving around. So I think it's a matter of time and capital. We are slowly, incrementally growing, and really that comes down to making sure that our offering is airtight, making sure that when we do scale, it's not in a problematic way. Or said another way, making sure that when we do scale larger, we don't scale those problems over.
I'll answer that and say, I think there's a disconnect between access to capital and access to right-sized capital. So if I have a budget that's $2 million, let's just say, and I'm challenged by an investor to bring that down to $1 million, I've already cut a lot of things, and I've already really looked hard at that budget to figure out, okay, what can I prioritize now and potentially get the rest later. But then if the investor says, well, I can only give you $250, you put me literally between a rock and a hard place, and having to figure out what to give up, what to lean into and what not to. And it really puts, I think, a startup in a place of stagnation sometimes, and limits their ability to grow.
Good morning, Mary Culver with August 20. We build valuable things by solving complex business problems that we've heard about today through the means of technology. So thinking about innovation from the lens of culture, which all of you touched on, and thank you for that. Curiosity and vulnerability really equal innovation. So just a quick touch point on each of you. How are you establishing a culture of curiosity and innovation, curiosity and vulnerability to drive that innovation instead of some of the things that we see in organizations that are really compliance-focused cultures? Thank you.
Great question. I'll take that first because it's easy for us. It's one of our highest values, the curiosity and the way we achieve that is trust. We've got a very close-knit team. We celebrate each other's misses, each other's guesses that don't turn out to be true. And because we all know we're moving forward towards something much bigger than ourselves, greater than some of our parts, if you will. And so I'd say for us, it's not trust.
I would build on that too. I think we allow people the ability to try things and take risks, and sometimes that it comes as a failure, and that's okay. And I think talking about that as an organization, or saying, I shared something that I could have done better in the last year. We've talked about that internally, and the same way across our organization, our leadership team does say, hey, I missed the mark on this, or this didn't land exactly how I thought. And so I think being transparent and vulnerable as leaders also helps set that culture internally.
It's good to share. So, attitude reflection, famous quote from the movie. If you're not doing it as a leader and you expect others to do that, then you're not going to accomplish it. So, when I think about curiosity, I try to be curious, not because I'm trying to be fake, but because it's actually part of who I try to be. And also, the culture of the leadership team that I'm trying to hire. And that serves now as an extension of me when I'm not a leader. The other side about vulnerability, there's a lot of talk right now in the HR world the last 2 years about vulnerability, emotional safety, and why that matters. I love saying I don't know, oops, but I also bring the I'm going to fix it, I'm committed to figuring it out. So emotional vulnerability without a commitment to fix, solve, and be part of the solution is no owner. That's where you run the risk. So I think being vulnerable myself is very important, but also being committed to solve. Really shows that level of ownership that I'm trying to create.
I think it's important for leaders to tell their story. I think it's important, I think a lot of times we see leaders as, back to the word perfect, and there's a story behind every leader that has brought them to where they are. One of the stories that I share is about coming from a family. My dad was the first of 13 kids, and in rural Alabama, and they grew up poor. But they were taught by their parents that education is the way out. That's your only way out of this, education, education, education. So they all have at least one degree, and they're all successful in their own right. But there was a little bit of PTSD around money and talking about it and being extremely, almost overly conservative about it, not taking any risks, not putting it in the stock market, not doing anything like that. So that made me extremely curious, which is why I went on this journey. Like, how can we make this a more comfortable topic for people? How can we bring more people into the circle of building wealth and financial betterment? So I think it's really important for leaders to tell their story, and I think that will, in turn, allow your employees and allow people working with you, your collaborators, to say, hey, that's cool, I would be a part of that. So hopefully that answers your question, Mandy.
Will you please join me in thanking Arlie, Sarah, David, thank you so very much. Welcome to the stake of the ground, innovation and transformation. Here it is, our first workshop, our first gathering. Thank you all so very much for being with us. Keep an eye on our Columbus.org. Look to our website for our great events coming up. Of course, pretty soon, in just a few months, a world-famous clam bacon lobster feast at the zoo. And if you've never been there, we had over 1,200 people last year. Please join us. One more time, thank you so very much. That was really great, very enlightening. Thank you all for being here, and keep an eye on the future. innovation and transformation workshops. Have a great day.